Erin Lawler-Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted. So I feel like everybody in life has a story, kind of like where little baby novels with lots of different chapters and a whole lot of different things in them. And sometimes it's really easy for us to make assumptions about people. And there's a whole lot of hurt that goes on in the world. And this is not about us being super sad, sitting in a circle, lighting candles and humming, because that's not what we're doing. But I believe in learning about each other. And I believe in teaching young people, teaching old people how to transition titles from victim to survivor, because I feel like when we take different titles, it can beat the heck out of us or it can empower us. And today, I am super excited to have a very dear friend of mine who's going to be a guest today, as I'm actually sitting in my car with her in my Jeep, looking at the waves crashing in, and it's just kind of picturesque. And you're not here, but you're always invited. So I have Hannah Oberman with me.
Hello.
Who is awesome. And Hannah and I met. Hannah actually was a student at the school that I worked at. I was thinking freshman year, and she reminded me that it was junior year, because I think as I get older, my brain becomes a little more meshed and sketchy and reflective. And so we met junior year. Correct. And Hannah is awesome. Hannah has been through a heck of a lot of crap in life and has made that transition in my mind from the status of, like, you could say victim to survivor to empowered to awesome in many languages kind of thing. So we met junior year. Do you want to kind of, if you don't mind, how we met, why we met?
Sure. So sophomore year of high school, I lost my older sister. Her name was Aria. She died in childbirth. And I was in counseling with Mrs. Myra, who was a guidance counselor at Seneca at the time, or still is, then. So, oh my word.
Keep going, girl. Keep going, girl. That's okay.
So,
you did.
she told me that she thought I would connect well with somebody that was working at the school. So she introduced me to Mrs. Lawler, and yeah, and we had a lot in common. We both lost our sisters. And I at that moment on, I just knew I had a forever friend in her. She never judged me, because I would say really terrible things like, why did she have to die? I hate her. And then the next day I'd be like, I'm sorry I said that. Like, I don't hate her. I miss her so much. And like, she would never judge. She just knew that I was hurting. And so that's how we met. It was in high school.
And unfortunately, like, we both kind of, kind of like we're gold card members, and I hate that term. It's like when you lose somebody, it's like,
in a special club.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, awesome, I would give my gold card member back. But so I know that kind of like fused us from, and at the time you were a student, you were a kid, and now you're an adult, fast forward many years later, and I consider you a friend of mine. And I look at the different things that happen in life, and it's kind of like, not always understanding why things happen, and it can beat the crap out of you. But I do believe there's strength in finding other people who kind of understand where you're coming from. Not knowing what you've been through, but kind of knowing what you've been through. And and I feel like there's times in life when we don't deal with certain things in our life, our hurts, whether that's loss, whether that's some form of trauma, it kind of has a tendency to bubble. It has a tendency to over time get worse. And I know a little bit ago we were kind of talking about kind of like the staggering reality of, like, I'm shifting gears a little bit here, how prevalent among females in particular, and this also applies to males, but I think mostly in terms of statistics, females, it's like 1 out of 3 females have had some form of sexual assault. Like the whole hashtag Me Too movement, where I admire, because it's giving women a voice. It's talking about something that's kind of been in the closet, if you will, that we get really weird about. And I think it's doing more of a disservice to females than a service to them, where it's kind of like, we don't want to talk about it. Yeah. It happens, or maybe it doesn't happen. And it's like, well, you're a victim, but you're kind of, I don't want to say like, it's crazy, like the skewed, and you're one of those females who've been subjected to things, how is your take on what you've been through to where you're at now? And I know that's like a really heavy thing to throw at you, but you and I are part of that statistic, and I hate statistics, but giving women, young girls, a voice, like, kind of, what say you with that?
Um,
Super heavy. Sorry about that.
so how do we give them a voice? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, how do you give them a voice? And if I can ask, like,
How did I get from
how
there
did you
to
get
now?
from there to now, and in whatever form you're comfortable in sharing, like, what you've been subjected to?
This is
It's heavy. I know. I'm sorry.
no.
Yeah.
So it all started when I was 7 years old, and it continued until I was 14. And I was subjected to family members and non-family members who sexually abused me. And I didn't we were talking about it earlier. Like, how to have a voice then? You're being told by people that are who supposedly love you, that, like, they're not hurting you, that they're just loving you. It's so hard to speak up when you think something's wrong, but they're telling you it's not wrong. It's really hard to just to make it. It's really hard to verbalize how you can talk about this stuff. It's just, yeah, I don't even know what to. Oh, I want to start over.
No, you're not starting over. We're not starting over. Good try. It's I think this is where it's at. It's like when it's like 30 something percent of females have been a part of this, and it's like, okay, so something's happened to me. I think when it comes to adults in their lives, telling parents who are listening, dialogue with your kids about boundaries, about if anything ever happens, creating a platform. And we could say, not my kid. And I think that's a really, really dangerous mentality to have. And I think allowing a comfort where we start when it's young, not scaring our kids, but having like, if there's so many, like, I think about all these gymnasts, like 150 in total, who were molested by somebody they were entrusted to, and how many of them did go to their parents or said, like, this happened to me, and who were either like, that didn't happen. And so it's being able to dialogue with your kids, or if you've been somebody who's been subjected to this, I believe we carry these kind of like secrets in our heart, and we can never be healthy. I don't believe we can ever be fully healthy unless we talk about it. And I don't know what your thoughts are. I kind of feel like we're like in bondage, like this secret that's stuck inside, and it hinders us from growth and healthy relationships.
Yeah, and I think it's made such an ugly, ugly crime that we shove it under the carpet so many times. If I would have just spoke up and said, Mom, Dad, I'm getting hurt, I would have found out then that my mom was also sexually abused as a child, and she would have, they would have stepped up. But I didn't know this. Like, talk to your kids. Maybe you need to find a right time to tell them about your past, your story, like what you've been through. But if they know that you know the struggle, the pain, the torment. My mom was, and she would be okay with me saying this, because when I was growing up and I was being abused, she didn't ever talk about anything because she wanted to deny it. She wanted to shove it under the carpet. But now she wants to give victims a voice, like you said, survivors a voice.
Become survivor, absolutely.
Yes, she wants us to stick up for the good, the good of coming out and, saying, I was hurt, and, don't let it affect you either. So you asked me how I got from there to here. It was torture. I went through so much therapy, so much counseling, and it wasn't until I was ready to accept that I was wronged by somebody and I couldn't do anything about it. So many of us love to control everything about our surroundings, every aspect. But we can't. Yeah. We can't control anything. So as soon as we come to the acceptance of we were wronged, but we can get past it, is when, we can start to grow. In high school, I struggled. I was telling you earlier, I still struggle. Like, I don't know, like, what real love should look like. I just recently started having a really amazing, healthy relationship with my parents. One of my sexual abusers used to tell me that he loved me like my dad, and my dad was abusive when I was growing up. So in my head, I thought he loved me more than my own dad did, because he told me, I love you like a daughter, call me your dad. And I was like, well, my dad hits me, so you must love me. So so where do they turn? Where do kids turn? Where, like, we need to give them a safe place to go and open up, whether it's your family, or, you know what I mean, or even places at school. Like, kids shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about things that happen to them. It should, and if they are embarrassed, we need to find out why they're embarrassed. Is it because of us? Is it the atmosphere that we're creating for them, that we need to, you know, make them feel like they're going to be punished? Or what is with their environment that they're feeling like this, feeling alone? No one should ever feel alone, because they're not alone.
They're not alone.
They're not alone, especially at Seneca. I had many, many, many resources when I was at Seneca, and I utilized them all. I would go into Mrs. Meyer's office and cry all the time. I'd go into I went into your office and cried all the time. Many of my teachers, if they knew something was going to be hard for me, they would excuse me from the class, and they would just let me go into a study hall or whatever. Like, resources are available to you.
And not being afraid of those, because I think there's a lot of, whether it's a student or
they
adult,
weakness.
right?
Like,
Or I'm going to get in trouble,
yeah.
Or we don't want anyone to know it's a family thing. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the scariest mentalities you can take, because then you carry it with you freshman year, sophomore year, and it's like this snowball effect for the rest of your life, and it can absolutely beat the heck out of you.
But you can get through
Absolutely.
it with the help of with talking about it is so helpful, and becoming to the understanding that you can move on, thinking about the future, working towards being a better you. This past year, I decided that my goal was going to be treat others as I would want to be treated, and love like there's no tomorrow. If tomorrow comes, love again. Like, love like there's no tomorrow. When tomorrow comes, love again. It's just my mantra for this whole year. I just want to pour love out, so that, you know, maybe that person that doesn't know who they can go to feels like they can come to me. Maybe I don't know. You know, it's hard. It's hard. It is hard.
And it's overwhelming. And when you think about how many people have been hurt by somebody else that they've trusted, it's staggering. And I think the more we talk about it, like,
make it normal.
Make it normal. Like, not make it where it's not, we wince, or like, let me close the door and let's talk about this. We need to talk about it. And it's letting that person know that you now know that, you know what, this happened to me, and it doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have to define me, and I am a survivor. And I look at you now, like, you're a woman, which is just weird for me to say, because I remember when you're like, and you've used your experiences, and I do believe it's a conscious choice, like, from the loss of your sister, to heartbreak, to anxiety and being overwhelmed, and you know, being sexual abuse, all these things that could have consumed you. You, like, hit this fork in the road, and it's been a lot of struggle. I'm not going to pretend I have any concept, but you are a survivor. And just like I said to you earlier today, like, some of the most powerful humans I've ever met, that you are people who've been through things and have allowed themselves to be fueled and not consumed by their hurt. And so it's fueling you. It's fueling you. And I look at you and I'm like, dude, she is a rock star. Like, who have, you've had a lot of chapters of hurt. And I do think, like, how proud your sister is of you. I do. And I believe they have glimpses of us and happy, like, you are making her proud. And in a second, like, life goes quick. So we're hurting now, not seeing them. And I believe in all my heart, man, I can't, like, you know, the day that we're reunited, and whether, I don't know if there's tables in heaven, but, like, sitting with you, like, you did good, Han. You did good. And we can allow these things to beat the crap out of us. I think about that with Shayna, my sister. Like, there's days, like, I'm like, I hurt. God, I miss her with all that. But I will do what I can to make her proud and not allow something super crap and super heartbreaking to define me. It's going to fuel us, and it's fueling you. So from all these things you've been through, that sometimes we could say, we don't want to think about it. It's not about fixating on it, but it's allowing it to fuel us. And you are a survivor. And for those of you that are hearing, man, I've been through something, or my kid, or my spouse, until we allow ourselves to be free from this bondage, we're super stuck. And we can pretend that nobody sees, but when we go at it alone and we're stuck, it beats the crap out of you. And when 1 out of 3 females, and the males out there, there's many of them who've been subjected to this, it's regaining a voice and learning how to talk about it. Because the whole Me Too thing, I say good on you women and good on you men who've been not victims, but you're survivors. And with whatever in life, we need to change the terminology with our kids. You can survive. You are with me. I am hand by hand with you with this, no matter what, whether it's a 14-year-old or a 40-year-old. We're not meant to go at this by ourselves. And we're not meant, we got to stop being buttheads. When we're uncomfortable talking about things that are uncomfortable, that make our kids are uncomfortable. They're not going to come and talk to you if they have an addiction and you're like, let's not talk about it. They're going to talk to you about it. If you don't talk about sexual abuse in an age-appropriate sense where you open up dialogue, they're not going to talk to you about it. And so the hurt's going to continue. Let's stop being buttheads and let's start dialoguing with our kids, because we are in times where there's so much hurt. There's so many people overwhelmed. Stop being a butthead. Let's be butthead free. And we're going to start dialoguing. And when I tell you the shackles start to come off, wow, I'm not alone. And wow, I can be fueled by this hurt. I can be fueled and be a survivor, not a victim. It's time to take our victim caps off. It's time to put our pride to the side. And it's time to start talking and dialoguing and ending these obstacles that are in front of too many of our kids, man. So let's start talking. And I say this to you, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, that was super heavy. Well, like, get in line. It's heavy. It's life. Pass this on to somebody that you care about. Hop on the Goodness Chick podcast that you're on right now. Subscribe, listen, stop going at life by ourselves. Keep going forward, my friends. Let's not hit the pause button and keep on keeping on. Peace, love, and goodness. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.